In the history of special operations, the name Entebbe is synonymous with perfect military precision, but the prevailing image of the Ugandan dictator Idi Amin as a bumbling, erratic clown who aided the hijackers out of spite is a comfortable myth. The truth is, the hostages were held for a week, not just in the heart of Africa, but on one of the most strategically valuable pieces of real estate in the Cold War. And the real reason the Israeli cabinet finally approved the rescue had less to do with heroism and everything to do with a deadline set by a man they couldn't bribe, intimidate, or negotiate with. To understand the raid, you have to understand the impossible math of the rescue versus the political cost of inaction. On June 27, Air France Flight 139 left Tel Aviv for Paris, making a routine stop in Athens, a city where security was notoriously lax. 4 passengers boarded in Athens, 2 Germans from the radical revolutionary cells, and 2 Palestinians from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Shortly after takeoff, they stormed the cockpit and diverted the plane, not to a secret desert airstrip, but to Benghazi, Libya, for refueling. From there, they flew 2,500 miles south to Entebbe, the main airport of Uganda, where they were welcomed by President Idi Amin. The terminal was a converted passenger building. It wasn't a makeshift prison, it was an ideal one. Open, indefensible space surrounded by a lake and bush with a single runway. And crucially, the terminal sat adjacent to a Ugandan army unit, meaning any rescue attempt wouldn't just face terrorists, but potentially a hostile foreign military. Amin's role is often misread as chaotic. In reality, he saw the situation as a political windfall. By siding with the hijackers, he positioned himself as a champion of the anti-imperialist movement. In Israel, the cabinet was split. The military establishment, led by Defense Minister Shimon Peres, believed a rescue was possible. The politicians feared the price of failure. The hijackers released the non-Israeli passengers, a savvy propaganda move that isolated the Jewish hostages and hardened the international community's reluctance to intervene. This gave the Israelis time, but also a clearer target. 106 hostages remained. The planning moved from if to how. The Israeli Defense Forces had a secret weapon and engineering firm that had built runways in Africa, including in Kenya. They knew the soil composition, the length, and the load capacity of Entebbe's airstrip. They also knew that Idi Amin traveled in a fleet of black Mercedes vehicles. In a moment of wry tactical humor, one officer suggested they bring a similar car to bluff their way off the plane. The plan was audacious: land a fleet of C-130s in the dead of night, drive a fake presidential convoy to the terminal, neutralize the hijackers, and extract everyone before the Ugandans knew what was happening. But the operation almost died on the tarmac in Israel. The first plane, carrying the assault team, was honestly just too heavy. The pilot had to dump fuel mid-flight just to make the distance, a decision that, violated every safety protocol in the book. 11:00 p.m. When the first plane landed at 11:01 p.m. on July 3rd, the element of surprise lasted exactly 30 seconds. 2 Ugandan sentries who actually spoke German saw the convoy and ordered them to stop. The lead commando unit, using a silenced pistol, took them out, but the noise alerted the terrorists inside. Inside, the 4 terrorists were holding positions near the hostages. The lead commando, Yonatan Netanyahu, shouted through the door in Hebrew, "Lie down! Everyone lie down!" In a split second, the hostages dropped. The 2 Germans and 2 Palestinians who remained standing were instantly cut down by the first burst of fire. The tactical assumption was perfect, the execution brutal, and the separation of innocent from enemy lasted less than 3 seconds, but the firefight was not clean. Ugandan soldiers on the upper floor of the terminal opened fire. In the chaos, Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, the only soldier to enter the building standing upright, was hit by a sniper's bullet from the control tower. The extraction was a race against fuel and Ugandan reinforcements. The commandos loaded the hostages onto the planes while engaging Ugandan troops. The entire raid, from landing to takeoff, lasted 53 minutes. Back in Israel, the nation awoke to news that honestly seemed like a movie script. 102 hostages were free, 3 were killed in the crossfire, and 1, an elderly woman named Dora Bloch, had been taken to a hospital in Kampala before the raid. She was later murdered by Ugandan authorities in retaliation. The cost was 1 soldier, Yonatan Netanyahu, the older brother of future Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, became a symbol of the ultimate price of command. His death is a cold reminder that even perfect plans have a bill. Entebbe didn't just save lives, it actually rewrote military doctrine. It proved that hostage rescue was possible at extreme range, that intelligence could be sourced from civilian contractors, and that the psychological impact of killing a terrorist in front of others was the ultimate detonator. It shifted the balance of power from the hijackers to the responders. For decades after, terrorists knew that taking Israelis didn't just invite negotiation, it invited a squad of men with black-painted faces landing on your runway. These stories matter because honestly, the tactical problems haven't changed. The distances are just shorter, and the deadlines are just tighter. Understanding how they solved the impossible helps us understand how we might face the unthinkable today. Subscribe to War Machiner and share this if you value history that goes deeper.